All right, guys. So my name is Amy. I do a couple different things for real estate and for the board and everything. I have been a broker in charge for quite a few years now, so I've been in the habit of checking people's paperwork a lot and kind of being in the thick of all of this. We do mostly new construction, so a lot of these public records become really, really important to us because we're basically selling a piece of dirt that's going to be a house someday. So we know better than anybody that you are buying and selling property. You're not buying and selling houses. So the more you know about the property that the house sits on, the better off you're going to be. And there's a lot of things when we do a full public records class, I try to tell people why they want to pull the flood right away, why they want to pull the plat map right away, why they want to pull the septic right away. And one of the things that we always talked about when we pulled septics was that there is the option that one of the times you're going to click on a septic, you're going to see that it's an offsite septic. So before, one of the big reasons why that was important was if you're encouraging your buyers to be getting surveys, which you should be doing in my personal opinion. One of the things with offsite is that it can actually almost double the price or actually double the price of having a survey done because the surveyor has to go out and survey the lot and then they have to survey the offsite septic area. So that was always one of the reasons why you wanted to know ahead of time that it was offsite. But right now, what we're running up against is that the VA primarily has put a whole nother step in their process. This is not a new thing. They were supposed to be doing this all along. They don't know why Onslow County and our area kind of got skipped for this being a requirement that was supposed to happen every time there was an offsite septic, but it has not ever happened in my experience. I mean, Ellen, have you ever really got big pushback for offsite? Yeah, and anybody else who's been around for a long time, we've just never really gotten this pushback, but the VA is very serious about it. They are not skipping over any offsite septic files. Now, I've been doing real estate for over a decade and I don't run across very many offsite septics. And like I said, we do new construction. So a lot of times new construction neighborhoods will have an offsite septic or two in there. It's just never really been a problem. So what the main problem is right now is as they're doing this, I'm going to share my screen with you. See if maybe. Let's see if it'll actually let me do it today. Okay. Well, as we're talking.
May I ask a question while
Yep.
you're doing
Go
that?
ahead.
My question, just for my own reference for offsite septic, would that be like a neighborhood where they have the round septic thing, if you will, in their yard, but that the septic is like a community septic, so therefore it's offsite? Or is that what you mean?
Yeah, for the most part. There's a couple different ways that it can show up when it is offsite. Um,
I'm thinking of neighborhoods like Rock Creek and Sterling Farms.
yeah, yeah, and some of those, well, yeah, and some of those will have offsite septics. And my screen is not allowing me to share for some reason, which is kind of a big portion of what we were trying to do here today. So let me try one more time. And then if it won't work, we will just go through this another way and then well, let me just keep talking and then we'll see if we can get this up and going. But basically, so if you were to pull up a septic permit, and like I said, the best way to do that to start is to go to onslowcountync.gov and you go through all of their stuff. You can pull permits and all of that. But like I said, I'll send you the attachment that'll show you how to do that. But when you do, if you see the words offsite septic and then you see the plot plan come up on the bottom and you've got your little lot sitting right here, and then you've got the septic up here, that's offsite septic. So it's off of the lot. So if it's off the site of your lot that you are putting under contract, it's an offsite septic system. There's good and bad to all of that. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing to have an offsite septic. But now the VA just needs a couple more things. So if you were to get an offsite septic, if that were to come up, what you will get is the following statement from them. The lender must send VA the documents to show the legalities of the property. We will need a proper recorded easement that provides for ongoing unlimited access and the use of the site where the drain field is located to protect the rights of the owner in perpetuity, as well as documents that show that the multiple lots are one legal entity. They're on one deed, okay? Please make sure we have a plat map with both the subject site and the drain field. And please highlight these. It'll be easier for the attorney to view them. Once received, these documents will be reviewed by the general counsel, the VA's attorney. So this will not be a quick process. If approved, the veteran will need to make a statement indicating their awareness of the atypical septic system and the possible impact on the marketability of the property in the future. So you not only have to provide all these proofs that the offsite area is going to convey along with the rest of the property to the veteran, but you also are going to have to get statements from them, or the lender is going to saying that they understand that their system is off-site and that it could affect the marketability of their property. Could. And again, it comes to, if somebody else wants to jump through these hoops. So luckily for the one that we had on December 14th was when we found out this house went under contract. We found out that this whole process was going to start with the VA. So once we did that, we sent everything that we had over to the lender, and on January 6th, so 3 weeks and 2 days later, we got the approval. It is at least what they are saying, a 3-week process. So please be aware from the start that if you pull the septic permit, or that this is an offsite system that you're about to put under contract, either as the listing agent or the buyer agent, you need to be telling that buyer right then that a 30-day closing is probably not in the cards for them, okay? You're kind of looking at tempering it the way that we talk about USDA loans, where it could be 45 to 60-day closing. It could be a lot less. If you have all your ducks in a row and you can get everything over to the VA immediately, if your lender's on it, if the builder or the owner, the current owner is on it and have all of these recorded documents, it's probably 3 weeks. But if you don't have a recorded easement, if you don't have a recorded deed talking about that portion of the offsite septic being a part of this, you may be starting kind of over from scratch with your attorney trying to record documents before you can even get to that part. The big part of this that I kind of wanted to put out, though, is please know that this is not the lender's fault. If you're working with ABC Lending and they call you on this and they say we have to go through this process, please don't think that you can change to XYZ lender and XYZ is not going to require this. It is not the lender's requirement. It's the VA requirement, okay? So if your buyer is using a VA loan, it doesn't matter what lender they're using, this is a requirement, okay? So that's the first one. It is also not the appraiser's fault. Please stop calling the appraisers and yelling at them to hurry them up. They cannot go out to appraise the house until this 3-week process is done. It's put on hold. They're not allowed to go see the property for an initial, for a final, to go do anything. They are put on hold. They cannot do anything. And it has nothing to do with them. They're not the ones that we're waiting on. We are waiting on a VA, Veteran Administration attorney, general counsel, to look at this. It's not the closing attorney. It's not the appraiser. It's not the lender. It is the VA attorney, okay? Completely separate entity. We have to get their approval before we can move it into the appraisal process. So please, just kind of be aware of that. I know it's frustrating, especially because we're not used to this happening. But like I said, if you are a listing agent and you have pulled your permits the way that you probably should be, so you know what you're dealing with, if you see you have an offsite, start gathering this data now. We have been told by the VA attorneys that they won't review the file before it's under contract because it's not necessarily a VA buyer. We're wasting their time, basically. If we send it to them before, they're not going to do anything because it's not attached to one of their fiduciary clients, if that makes sense. So, but they are The VA is being very responsive to us when we call them. They're being very responsive to lenders. They're being very proactive. So if you have questions for them, there's no reason why you shouldn't try to ask them these questions. They just might not give you a 100% answer, like, yes, you're good to go before you're under contract. So like I said, just try to get those ducks in a row though. So the big things are, so what we ended up having to do are a couple different steps. Luckily, our builder did have all of this done correctly, or, they had they had the easements recorded already that were fine. They had all of that stuff done. If they don't, please reach out to your closing attorney ASAP and just send them the form that I just read out, because that's exactly what the lender's going to send you on what they need. And then you're going to need to tell them where we need to start recording documents and where we need to do this, because of course this is all attorney stuff. This has nothing to do with you. You are not allowed to draft documents like this. So like I said, we're going to have to shuffle it back, but if you already have these things, it would be great. So the first thing that we had to do, and again, I'm sorry, my screen sharing is not starting. So I'm going to hold up pieces of paper to my camera and you can take a look at it there. So the very first thing that came out of this was that they wanted us to, so when you're filling out an offer to purchase, you've got the street address, you've got the lot number, you've got the PIN number, you got plat map, you got all that stuff. That is the legal description of the house. Usually good enough. If you do a lot of land deals, you may know that it's not always enough. Sometimes you actually have meets and bounds descriptions of all of this kind of stuff. That's kind of what's going to take over here. So instead of trying to fit a ton of stuff into that little section, what we did was we amended the condition addendum that we already had. Okay, so if you can see this box here, this is the new legal description. Okay, so what we had to do on top of this just being 604 Hobbs Drive in Jacksonville 28540, the legal description is now, all parties agree that the property address shall be amended with the following. Recorded in map book 65, page 231, for the purposes of installation, maintenance, and repair of septic tanks, pumps, and lines over and upon that portion of real property designated within the parameters of Lot 7 on the aforementioned plat, Lot 4 septic easement, together with easements for the purposes of installation, maintenance, repair of pumps and lines on the portions of Lots 5 and 7, as shown on the plat, designated Lot 4 15-foot septic easement. That is the legal description now, okay? And you'd be able to, and I'll show you where I found that. We didn't draft that, we didn't do anything. It is in the recorded covenants showing this easement, okay? But do be aware that your legal description now changes from 123 Main Street to this. It's a big description, okay? But that makes the VA happy because now they know that the buyer is buying this happens to be Lot 4 of Hobbs Tract. So they're buying Lot 4 of Hobbs Tract, but they're also buying this portion of Lot 7, blah, 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 blah. Okay. So that's the first thing, is that you're going to have to get an amended address put in there. That's going to make the VA happy. The second thing are all of those forms that they asked for. They asked for the easement, they asked for a deed, they asked for a plat map. So if you don't already have those things, if this is not in a neighborhood, you're going to have to start pulling stuff together real fast. The first one, though, what we actually had recorded, and this was recorded all the way back in 2013, easement agreement. Okay. So what I did, I went through and I was really, really pedantic, and this VA attorney was either super impressed or really rolling his eyes at me for all the highlighting and everything. But what I wanted them to see is that this is a recorded document. It has a book and page number. It is stamped. This is a recorded document, okay? This recorded document says that it's an easement agreement. And then it goes on to say who the declarant is and who this easement is being passed along to. That was one of the things that they wanted. They wanted this to be passed on in perpetuity, so that whoever owns this property after the builder owns the right to the septic system. And if they sell it, it goes with that person. They want to make sure that they have full legal access to the septic system, whoever owns that lot. Okay. So that's the first one. On page 2, then we start getting into, thank goodness the builder had all of this in there. They have the descriptions of where the lots are, and the words in there saying that it is you know, it goes with the land, that they have full access to this. All of the words that the VA wanted happen to have already been in this. And I will, when I send, if everybody wants a thing from Heather, when she sends out the instructions for how to pull septics, I'm going to attach all of this stuff too, because the screen share isn't working. So you can see what I highlighted and all of that. None of this is private information. So I'll send all of that out as well. So they had all of that. They had who the owners are, and here is that clause. This owner shall have respective and perpetual easements over the areas. That's what the VA wanted to see on that. And then it went into, on the legal description, we talked about the maintenance. So it talks about who is supposed to be maintaining this, okay? So this is all in this easement. It just happened to be exactly what we needed, which of course didn't just happen to be. Attorneys know what they're doing, builders know what they're doing. Hopefully all of this is in public records and it is just as easy for you guys to find as it was for me. So this is part of the actual septic permit. This is the plot that's on the last page of it. So this is the lot that they're buying. They're buying lot 4 in that house that's right there, but they're also buying this little easement right there, and they're buying this off-site septic system. So if that makes sense, Gina, from when you were asking before, that's what the off-site, that's what they're talking about. You got the house here. On this other lot, this happens to be lot 7 up here for this neighborhood, and that's where the septic sits, okay? So they own all of this, including this line that goes across, okay? So I highlighted even the line because I wanted them to make sure that they saw that. Same thing on the plat map. If you have a plat map, again, I highlighted where they're talking about the deed. I highlighted the lot. I highlighted the lines, the offsite septic system, and up here where it has which lot that offsite was on, okay? Also over here, because we referenced map book 65-231, I wanted to make sure that they know that this is the map that we were talking about, okay? So like I said, be obnoxious with that highlighter. They told us it would be easier for them if we highlighted this information. You know where this information is. You look at these maps all day long. I'm sure the VA attorney does not. He probably does now. But before they started doing this, they may not know where all that is. So you just want to make sure that everything that they asked me for in this email, they said highlight these things. I made sure I had a piece of paper that had something on there highlighted for it, okay? And we turned in these papers with that changed legal description. So we turned in the changed legal description. We turned in the easement, the plat, the septic with the plot on there, and the original deed, because that was the other one, was the original deed. And I'm not going to pull it up for you because it really is a long old-fashioned meets and bounds things, because this builder happened to buy this property back in like 1974 or something. So it's not very easy to look at, but we have the original deed that's referenced on all those map books and everything, showing that they own all of that property. So like I said, it really is more about getting your ducks in a row than anything. And it is knowing, and that's my whole thing. Every time I teach this class on pulling public records, the biggest thing about pulling public records is not to have them before closing. It's to have all of these things before your buyer goes under contract, before your seller lists that house. Because if you don't know that that house is in a flood zone, now maybe your people don't qualify if they have to pay for flood insurance, maybe they don't qualify for the house anymore. If they have a private road maintenance agreement and you're using some lender from over here, they might not do private road maintenance. There's lenders in town that don't do private road maintenance, and you're going to need to know that that buyer is going to have to switch lenders at the beginning, not a week before closing. Same thing with the septics and everything else. The more you know with the buyer going into this, the more you can tell them, and you will look like a rock star if you are able to tell your buyers, hey, you know, this house is great. It happens to have an offsite septic system. So I know you've got a little bit of wiggle room. You don't really necessarily need to be in 30 days. Please be aware this is probably going to be closer to 45. Is that okay? If you can prepare them for these things ahead of time, they're going to be much happier about that. Irina, I did see your question. I don't know. It's up to the surveyor. Sometimes it depends on the surveyor. It depends on what's on there. But a lot of times it's almost double because they are doing 2 separate surveys. most of the, I think I've probably only done two in my life where, we've had a buyer that has had to pay for it. We have builders that have to pay for it, but they never tell us what they pay for their stuff. Um, but I think it was more like kind of 1.5 times. So basically they didn't charge for an entire full extra survey because basically they're, transportation, they're already there. But it was not the same price as an on-site. And it is important, and again, that's one of those other things. If you, and again, just trying to have all your ducks in a row, having all of this together, the questions that we've been trying to ask the VA and every lender that we can is, what can we do to make this go faster? Will it go faster if my buyer hires a surveyor on day one and has the surveyor go out and survey all of this and get this on? Will that help? So far, we haven't gotten an answer. So like I said, I mean, we just wanted to make sure as the board that we passed along this information as fast as we kind of got it. And I was really excited because the day that I talked to Heather about wanting to do this class was the day we got our approval on this one. So now I know what information is necessary to them. And again, it could be different on every single one, all of that, but just knowing that other agents are going through this, because I get calls, I've gotten a bunch of calls from people asking if we know about this, if I know how to help with it, whatever. Kind of, I guess. I think I have as much information as anybody does at this point, but Casey Starling has volunteered his services. He says he's had to deal with this in the past, so he knows what's required. So if you don't already have an attorney that you know that you've discussed this with and they know how to deal with an offsite system, Casey may be a great place to start. The lender that pushed it through for us is a local lender. They did a great job. But they had the exact same information. I've gotten this from two different lenders, that first blurb that I read out saying, what they need, that they need the easement, the deed, the blah, blah, blah. That is their static line. They send that to every lender. So every lender has that. But that's about all the information that they have. Most of our lenders aren't really wanting to throw their hat in the ring right now to really talk this through because they don't know either. There's not that many of these that have gone through yet. But like I said, because ours did, and I knew, and all of this, every single thing that I showed you that was highlighted, every one of these pages is in Onslow County records. The builder didn't get that to us. Nobody got that to us. We were able to pull it ourselves with that sheet that I'll send out, or that Heather will send out. Most of the records for Onslow County are in there. They are updated. They do a really good job of doing that. And if you ever can't find anything, they are really easy to call and to request things from. They're usually pretty quick. Like I said, if something like this comes up in Pender County or whatever, their portal is now open. Pender Port is open, and it looks very similar to the Onslow County permitting site. But my problem with it is that they don't have all the attachments up yet. So you might be able to see that there is indeed a septic permit in there. You just might not be able to access it yourself. So you might still have to call Pender. But they're pretty good about getting you what you need as well. And like I said, I know this isn't like the most in-depth class or anything like that, but we just wanted to make sure, like I said, the big things are that you guys know how to pull septics, and if you don't, who to go to. And that is the Environmental Services Department at the Onslow County Government Building, and they will pull those for you. It used to be about 2 weeks before Miss Rose could get us back something back in the day. Now they probably will get it to you in about 20 minutes if you request a septic from them. But please do be aware that it is something that you can pull yourself. You don't need to wait for them. You usually can get those yourself. But like I said, so between that and just knowing, like I said, just, don't blame the closing attorney, don't blame the lender, don't blame the appraiser. None of this is on them. It's just something that we need to do. But definitely, if you've got listings, take a look at them and see if they do indeed have an offsite septic system. If they do, you're going to want to start pulling all this information together right now. If you have buyers and one of the houses that they're looking at is an offsite septic system and they know they have to be in a house in like 3 weeks, again, that might be one of your things that this might not be the house for them. These are all ways of us, really being the professional and all of this. And the more you know, the better. Like I said, we are recording this, so if there's people in your offices that you feel like need to know this, definitely let them know where they can just get it off of the JBOR website and all of that. It'll be up there probably later today. Usually Heather's real quick about this. We will shoot out all of the pieces of paper that might be helpful for you as you're working through this. Feel free, again, to share those with everybody in your office. None of this is proprietary information. All of it can just help us be better co-brokes together and all of that as well. And once you digest all of this, if you do have any questions at all, you are welcome to call or email me at any time. I'll put my information in the chat box here, so it'll be there. But oh, maybe if I stop talking. Oh my gosh, Gmail. Um, and Heather can always get you this information, or you can look me up in Flex anytime. But if you have questions, I'm definitely available and I'm happy to try to help you. I, again, do not have all of the answers or even probably most of them, but this is our start. We wanted to at least push this out there as quickly as we could. Whenever something big changes in our area, we want to make sure we get that out. But the VA is definitely looking a little bit more closely at all of their files. So if they ask you for anything, just, do it with a smile, highlight, 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 get them what they want, get them what they need. They do appreciate when we can help. And definitely the lenders are stressed out about this. The appraisers are stressed out about this. Everybody else is too. So yeah, so Jenna just asked a question. So yeah, so if you're looking on the Register of Deeds, the easements are going to look just like restrictive covenants. They actually might even be called covenants in there. So a lot of times, and that is in that sheet too that I'm going to send you. The quickest way to pull covenants is to go into the Register of Deeds, do advanced search, put the neighborhood name in there, and every map and recorded covenant for that neighborhood should come up, and it won't pull up all the deeds and everything else, just maps and covenants, which is great. It makes it a lot faster to search through. But a lot of times, like if you're looking at like this one, so let's just say Hobbs Tract, and let's say it's a bigger subdivision than it is, they'll have section 1 restrictive covenants, they'll have section 2, and then they might have some additional ones, amendments, and they might look like amendments or something else, but a lot of times they are going to be easements or something like that. So just make sure that if you're in a neighborhood and you're looking for these things, look through all of the covenants, because one of them, like I said, I think this one was labeled as a covenant, and it's part of the covenants that go with the land and all of that, but it is an easement agreement. So definitely check those out. If they're not in Onslow County records or something, and you think there might still be an easement, the best thing to do is, if it is new construction, or even if it's not, if you contact the listing agent for that development, they would at least be able to reach out to the developer or the builder and see if they happen to have that copy of an easement, because things get missed. Sometimes they don't get uploaded to the Onslow County Register as quickly as we would like, or at all. Sometimes they just get missed. But the builder or original developer may have a copy of that. If it's someone like, let's say, I think we all know that Sides does their closings at Lanier and Fountain. So if it's a Sides community, even if it was 8 years ago that this house was sold, you could also try calling Lanier and Fountain and seeing if like Michelle or somebody has that easement agreement. So just know that you can dig back through there, but I don't know any listing agent, even if it's not their current property, that wouldn't attempt to help you get through this, because they're probably going to need it too at some point. But yeah, like I said, the Onslow County site is incredible. There's lots of stuff that you can get there, but please, please, please be pulling all of this stuff at the beginning of a transaction, not in the middle, not at the end. This is all stuff that your buyer deserves to know up front, and it's all things that your seller, because they may have bought the property and not known that all of this existed. If they had an off-site septic system anytime before now, nobody's asked them to do all of this before. So this is all brand new to all of us. But like I said, not brand new to the VA. They've just never called us on it before. So does anybody else have any questions? I wanted to kind of keep this as kind of short and sweet as possible, just because, again, we don't have all the information. We just have some information.
There was a question in the comments in the chat section about finding the easement agreement. Could you go over that again, please?
Yeah, so that's what I was just saying. That's going to be usually filed along with the restrictive covenants. So if you're used to pulling restrictive covenants from the Onslow County Register of Deeds, it's all going to be in the same thing. And it might actually be labeled that it is a covenant, not an easement. A lot of times if you read those yellow boxes as they go across, it'll say it'll be filed under a covenant, a restrictive covenant, but it may then on this line over here say that this is, a septic easement for lots 3, 4, 5, and that's exactly what you want. But it should be filed along with all the covenants in the Register of Deeds site. So far this is just a VA thing, but in general, if you've ever had a USDA loan on an offsite septic, they ask for quite a few of these things as well. I wouldn't be surprised if FHA did as well. I don't know if it's a lending community, type of loan type thing that they've all decided that this is something they need to focus on, or if it really was just the VA catching that nobody in Onslow County was doing this for some reason. I don't know. I don't think it's just Onslow County, but that's what we were kind of told from the get-go, is that no, you've always supposed to be doing this. It's just never, somehow it's been overlooked for all these years. But I would say that if you have an offsite septic system and you're the listing agent, you start finding this stuff immediately, because I mean, we know that a lot of our loans that come in are going to be VA. So the chances of you having to have this information anyway are probably pretty high, even if it's not anybody other than USDA or other than VA asking for it. But USDA usually does request some sort of survey-ish looking thing. And it's possible that something like the septic permit with that survey on it might be good enough for them. I've never had to go back through on a USDA loan and do anything special. But I do know that they do have some extra requirements for offsite. So like I said, as a listing agent, if you know that it's offsite, start pulling as much as you can together. So yes, the magical items you need, I mean, definitely have that deed pulled, have the plat pulled, have any kind of easements and restrictive covenants pulled, because sometimes the easements are within the restrictive covenants too. So if it's a smaller neighborhood, or even if it's a bigger neighborhood, sometimes just in the covenants for an entire neighborhood, they'll have a section in there on page, 37 of 62. I don't know. They'll have a little section in there on offsite septic permits for the following lots, and that might be good enough as well. So definitely be pulling the deeds, the plat maps, the covenants, which all of those should be pulled anyway. The Real Estate Commission does say the restrictive covenants are material facts, so we should be doing that. And that's really it. So those things, those public records, but like I said, you are going to have to amend the property address probably. And like I said, what we came up with as being the best solution was to put it on some sort of condition addendum or blank addendum. And there will be somewhere in that recorded easement agreement, kind of a description of that property. Just cut and paste that away. That is not drafting if you're cutting and pasting from restrictive covenants or something like that too. Always a good idea to get your closing attorney to bless things if you feel like that's necessary. But a lot of this, since they are lender requirements, you kind of want to pass it through the lender and just say, hey, does this look like what you think we could get out? But yeah, so those are the big things. Just making sure that you have the property address so that it incorporates both areas. And then all of those public records. But like I said, all the public records that are going to be on the sheet that I send out are all important every time. Real quick, this doesn't really have anything to do with what we're talking about right now, but the same way you pull septic permits in Onslow County is the same way you can actually get sewer permits now. It won't be for everything. It'll be for newer houses, maybe in the last 2 to 3 years, but sewer permits, when they come from a couple places, actually do have the same sort of household limits that septics do. So that's half the reason why we pull a septic permit, is because if it's a 3-bedroom septic, only 6 people can live there. You can't call it a 4-bedroom house, all that kind of stuff. Sewers are kind of doing the same thing now. And that's just to make sure that the sewer lines are big enough and all of that, but it is much faster and cheaper to run extra sewer to a house than it is to run an entirely new septic line if you ever had to do that. But do be aware that the sewer permits are in there as well. So definitely, once you get this sheet, start playing around on the Onslow County website. There's amazing things in there for just your buyers and stuff too, because when you're on their main page, it has links to the libraries, to public parks, to everything that goes on in Onslow County. There's fantastic links there for everything. So definitely use that as a resource. I don't know. I think that's about it. Like I said, I know it's not everything that you could hope for. It's not going to be step 1, 2, 3. This is definitely going to work. But like I said, all of these things should be available if there's an offsite, because the county's not going to approve an offsite septic system without a lot of this stuff. So it shouldn't be as difficult as we think it's going to be, I don't believe, unless it's a really old system. In that case, if it's not a new septic system, we may have to dig a little bit harder, but there are people out there that will definitely help you. And like I said, start talking to your closing attorneys, your preferred ones about this, start talking to your preferred lenders about this, keep just gathering as much information as you can for the one time that you need to do it. And if anybody comes up with something fantastic, please let the board know, let me know, or let Heather at the board know, and we'll push it out to the rest of the board, because the more information we all have, the better. All right. Well, if nobody else has any questions right now, we're going to go ahead and cut this off. So it's about a half-hour recording, but definitely tell your office, tell everybody else that needs to, or if you know anybody in your office that's having problems with this, we are always, available to help walk anybody through what they need. I'm happy to try to pull the septic easements for you. If you tell me the address, so just let me know. We'd like to get all of these things on there. But of course, I'd rather teach you how to do it so you can do it the next time. But if you're in a rush, or if you're just super frustrated, it's what I do mostly all day, every day, is pull all these things. So I am happy to help. If you guys missed it at the beginning, Miss Heather and the board has some fantastic new things in their JBOR store. So definitely